We're gonna have a nice suntan at the end of the.
Woo! It's like I'm at the beach. My parents would be so proud. I'm hanging outside all day.
Yeah, we're done.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a reminder, the person who ends in 8th place gets a card.
Yeah, skill.
8th place.
Okay.
That's
it, I can see.
I'm keeping.
So again, we're playing double elimination. We're playing 40-minute rounds. You guys have all done this before. Any questions whatsoever? Because I really love you.
That's a good reason. Feel like have fun, yo. Welcome back. This is Top Cut Game 1 of Swiss Montreal Regionals 2018. I'm joined by Remy, Kappa, Graydon. How's it going?
Hi.
How's it going? You're gonna have to come in here, man.
Cool.
If you're just tuning in, we just hit the Top Cut. This is our first game, and we have Hanny on the right playing Valencia. Yeah, such sunlight, much brightness. They're right by a window, so that sunlight is gonna roll through. Ideally, that's gonna fix itself, and our audio is back up too as well. Remy, you just made what, 10th? Just dodged the top
11th.
8? 11th, all right. Unfortunately, we saw your last games. They're pretty great.
Some play really well.
And Kyle is on the team Mukundo. Let's just get that deck list real quick if we can. Can I see Kyle's deck list, kindly? Do we have those?
Amy. Amy's.
So Hanny, we have Hanny's list right here. Just give us 1 second. Thank you. All right, so Kyle on the left is playing Mati Mukundo, which is the new Jinteki ability, the second newest ID, and it's been very, very powerful. We've seen a lot of representation here today, as well as in Toronto last weekend. And that ability is just flexible. It lets you rush early. It lets you put more ice as defense on your remote servers. The Stark lighting, yeah, it's very Stark. And on the other side, we have bad publicity. That employee strike is actually going to do a lot for Mati Mukundo. We have to talk a bit quieter, mind you, because the store did get quieter. A single access on HQ is Sing Sandstorm, and I think that's actually a really good transition to talk a bit about Kyle's deck. This deck reminds me a lot of the deck I saw Dean playing last weekend in Toronto, and it uses the power of cards like Sandstorm. His version's actually not on Excalibur, but the idea is that with Sandstorm, once you're running a remote, you get through multiple pieces of ice, and then you install the innermost ice as a Sandstorm, and if you can't break that, it's going to throw you out of the server, and that's going to spend a lot of your time running that remote and a lot of your credits for no points. Now, Hanny does have a counter to the Sandstorm. He does actually have an Amakua. That's going to be an Obakata off the top, taking 4 net damage, putting Hanny 0-3. Kyle's on a pretty standard Glacier agenda suite. He has the 3 Niseis, 3 Obakatas, a Flotic, and his last agenda point. Some people are playing Feature Perfect, but Kyle here is on the SSL endorsement. That Obakata off the top is huge. It's too loud? Oh, damn. Apparently I'm too loud. I gotta be even quieter. Wow, I gotta be really quiet, huh?
Yep.
So going for another axis off the top, and that's a Flotic Entanglement. Hanny up on 5 points. This might be an issue. There we go for Rashida Yahim, which Kyle's gonna fire off to draw 3 cards. The strike was turned off with the scarcity, which lasted 1 turn for the original agenda store, but an absolutely disgusting open from Hanny, putting himself on 5 points, is a really big deal. 3 of those agendas in there are their Niseis. There's still 6 agendas left in what's probably around 40 cards now. Nothing is iced up. If I'm not mistaken, Hanny actually has in his hand, he has the Rebirth. Which means even if Kyle ices up R&D or HQ, if he drew some agendas there, he's going to have to ice up Archives anyways. We're going to spend a credit installing on a remote server, and Hanny doesn't actually have a lot of money. He has 4 credits. He can slow down here, take some time, take some credits. That Divide and Conquer actually could be a really simple win here if he wants to go all in on a single run, spend most of his money. But that can't possibly be right the turn. But Hanny's definitely feeling confident. This is turn 3. He's up 5 points. Mind you, this is double elimination. So if Hanny or if either of these opponents, if they lose this game, they still are in it. They're not removed right away. Dirty Laundry in Hanny's hand is a good economy. There's not a lot of credits or a lot of econ cards you can play from 4 credits. The problem is, as soon as Dirty Laundry is a server, Kyle can throw an ice in the way. I think Kyle is actually on 13 credits. This might be 3 credit tokens. It's not very clear, but Kyle definitely has his work cut out for him. And just like the old Replicating Perfection decks back in the day, if there is any deck that can recover from being behind 5 points, it is the strength of chaining together Nisei Mark II agendas to protect the next Nisei Mark II agenda. Kyle's also on some defensive upgrades. Mind you, these opponents have they seen each other's deck list, Julianne? I think they look at each other's deck list before the game start. They don't?
They haven't seen their deck?
I think they're supposed to. Okay. So they actually don't know each other's deck lists. A Crick is going to fire, which reinstalls a card from Archives. That is the Rashida Yahim, which can fire again. And a single Axis here on HQ.
It has to be announced at the beginning of the tournament.
Okay.
This will be revealed in the tournament.
Okay.
It's not, so it's not.
Okay, cool. So it seems like if we want to reveal a deck list, it has to be done at the beginning of the tournament. So we didn't. So they don't actually know each other's deck list. Newshound was seen in HQ, which is really strong with a current on the table, and the Rashida Yahim is going to fire. An absolutely incredibly strong neutral card has had such representation since it just came out. It's actually just going to be pre-resed. A Mining Accident's going to be played, and Kyle's actually going to spend the time, spend the 5 credits, just to make sure that Henny does not get that bad pub. At this point, with only 5 credits, Rashida's going to bring him back up to 8. Kyle still has a lot of digging to do. I don't know why you pre-res Rashida. I think you might as well. I think we've seen that Henny is not on Hacktivist. And 2 Ice on R&D is making that Rebirth look really good. Rebirth into Omar. You could even do it this turn if he has 2 clicks left, considering that the Mati ability was already used on HQ for the Crick, if I'm not mistaken. Also in chat, if you can kindly let me know if this audio is loud enough. I'm not sure how quiet I am versus the game sound. Dirty Laundry seems to be just on Archives. Just to gain the 3 credits, and that is the Rashida Yahim. 3 cards. 3 credits. And you have to be really fortunate here with Rashida. If Kyle draws multiple agendas at once, it's actually very difficult for him to deal with it while also protecting central servers. That Crick actually does very little right now. With Rashida installed, like, you can install the NGO front, but in theory, if you wanted to make 5 runs on HQ, you could just run through that Crick all you wanted. It's going to keep the agendas in HQ, and that's the only problem right now is Hanny, I think, is only on 5 to 6 credits. Install on the remote server. Advance, and I believe advance. So we're looking at Obokata protocols. We're looking at NGO fronts. There's even a chance that is any over-advance. It's a nice play sometimes to over-advance that Nisei Mark II. If your opponent thinks it's an Obokata, they might not want to go for it, but if you get that Nisei token, you're actually significantly further ahead. And even having to discard cards, because I think we had 2 Rashidas 2 turns in a row. And Hanny just probably going to go slow, drop a bit with that I've had worse. That's 3 cards. A lot of times you can get that ability to fire off net damage, but Hanny needs to find answers now. With about 5 credits, he really needs to find a liberated accounts. But if you look at his hand, there's no money in there. It's all utility cards, recursion. Hanny's actually running same old thing in his deck. It's not a card you see that often. It's generally a good card if you want to replay a Rebirth that got trashed, maybe. Maybe you want to replay Divide and Conquer. Maxwell James also does have some good strength here. He's opting to install the same old thing. Paying 2 credits.
No, the clock is not okay. Oh.
Is that clock correct? I don't think the clock is correct. It's probably 45 minutes for the round. I'm not entirely sure.
They got 30 minutes left.
35 minutes left? Okay.
Well, it's 32 actually.
I honestly don't know how to fix that right now, but importantly, Kyle's on 3 points. That's an SSL endorsement. One of the new agendas from the Kantar cycle. That's a really strong agenda to score here. It puts you further ahead. That's going to give 9 credits slowly throughout the game. Good ASMR voice.
Yeah.
And that's going to keep the current on. I'm actually surprised that Hanny paid 2 credits to play that same old thing, considering it gives no tempo as of now. And looks like Handy's just going to be clicking for credits, drawing some cards. We see 2 very important cards in the hand. That indexing matters. That Mad Dash honestly doesn't matter right now, considering Hanny is on game point. But again, if there's one agenda spread that can dig up from being behind 5 points, it is chaining defensive upgrades and Nisei Mark IIs. As long as the central servers are kind to you, you'll be okay. Yeah, that clock is, excuse me, that definitely is not correct, that clock. We'll try and fix it. I think they have about 20 minutes shorter than that. I don't think this game is going to go to time, so I'm not going to bother. Launching and indexing. Doesn't have credits. Has the Mati Makundo ability to install just about anything. I think he has all his breakers and about 9 credits and 1 bad pub might be alright. Is he playing that or is he discarding it? Doesn't make sense a lot to play it. I think he's actually throwing it out. Oh no, I think he's playing it. So we know there's a news hound in hand. It could be on the remote server. It has an end the run subroutine, and mind you, that card is 6 to break with MK Ultra, let alone a 2-credit install, which is going to be a pretty immediate run end. It does make Kyle spend money icing R&D, but if Hanny wants to run through the server or index and steal agenda points, he has to run through it twice this turn. He definitely could set up for next turn.
He has a stim hack as well.
Oh, he has a stim hack in hand? That'll help a lot. And it looks like it's a DNA tracker.
That hurts.
That hurts bad. It doesn't end the run, mind you. It's a lot, if not most of Kyle's credits. It's going to do 6 damage and 5 credits. The bad pup can be paid into that during your run. I think if he wants to install Black Orchestra and get through that, it's going to be some damage here. And I think he might have an I've Had Worse in hand. Losing the Maxwell James. 2 credits Maxwell James. Stim hack. That's like losing more than 2 credits. And last card, that's the Mad Dash. Doesn't really matter. And he actually can threaten, like, I don't know. If he hits any card at Cortex Lock here, he actually dies. Cortex Lock does 4 net damage. I don't know whether continuing is the right play. While he can probably break it, depends how many credits he has. I think it's actually, again, it's like 8 credits to break a Cortex Lock. He might have to jack out here. And it looks like we're getting install on the remote server. And that is the news hound we talked about. That's going to end the run. It's also going to give Hanny a tag. Doesn't really matter that much.
Well, we can trash his the same old thing.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to trash the same old thing. It doesn't really do anything right now. Same old thing indexing is a play.
Yeah. Same old thing, stim hack as well.
Losing that stim hack actually was probably one of the worst things. Now, Hanny has to, or Kyle has to score rather desperately, and stim hacking the remote was one of Hanny's best plays considering he doesn't have a lot of credits, and contesting the remote is really hard. It's going to be very difficult. Now, luckily, Kyle is only on 3 credits. That being said, he does have 6 more waiting on the SSL endorsement. And I think he still might have a Divide and Conquer as his last card in hand, which is the best thing to see. So that's a tag. There's a current on the table. That's an end the run if you don't see Newshound. Haven't seen that one before. It's from Datum Destiny. It's a very strong card. Specifically, you see this a lot being played right now due to Anarchs being prevalent. It costs 6 to break, and we're just playing Divide and Conquer. This is Desperation Hanny. He's paying 3 credits to get an access on HQ and access on R&D.
He probably knows what's on top of R&D though.
I don't think he knows because he drew through it. It's a hedge fund off top. And from hand, we're going to see a single card. This could be game. It looks like it is just a Kakugo. Divide and Conquer, mind you, one of the new Anarch cards in the box that just came out right in Reverie. Hopefully you could get your hands on that one and sing a fair bit of play, actually. It combos really well with Turning Wheel. And that was another Rashida him, drawing 3 more cards, 3 more credits, back up to 9. And Hanny Havishot, no credits, 1 tag, no breakers, no cards in hand, just has nothing to show. That desperation plays on 5 agenda points. Sometimes you just try and close the game out. I think Hanny might have wanted to play a bit more control if he contests the remote.
Yeah.
Kyle's in a bad spot.
He took so many, like, why did he just do a desperation move like that? Like, he should have waited for gaining money and just break the server he could with, like, his stim hack. Instead of, like, going for a single access, you probably won't get nothing up.
Single access doesn't seem right. Now, Kyle did top deck. He has an Nisei Mark II in hand.
Yeah.
That is the one agenda he wants to score now. If he has that scored, he can stop big runs, he can stop indexings, he can stop Divide and Conquers, and he can stop the remote, most importantly. A really strong card right now is Sandstorm. It makes him have to run the remote twice. He has no Amaku to play. He has no David in his deck either, which is another good way of getting through Sandstorm. And in HQ, it's not entirely safe. You could always run through that Crick. Now, mind you, another ice will be coming in behind it.
Yeah.
Kyle still has some work to do, but he's definitely not out of the game. 3 more credits, from the SSL endorsement, throwing out 1 into archives. And Henny has nothing to do besides draw cards. Mind you, he also has a DDoS, which is pretty strong.
I think he needs money right now.
Yeah, there's literally nothing you can do at 0 credits.
So he did get 4, right?
Yeah, he drew once. I think he got 3. Yeah, Henny got a bit too aggressive, I think. Looks like it's install advance. You might even want to go in and advance that again. It depends how much credits you need for that server. But if it looks like an Obakata protocol, I don't think Hanny will contest it, considering not only does he need credits, he needs cards in hand. Single advance means it's almost obviously the Nisei, so Henny could consider contesting that. All you need is a stim hack, and he might be able to get in, but that's probably going to end up as a 4-ice server. Kyle's feeling pretty good. I think it's going to come down to the credits. He needs to res some of this ice and still have 3 to score the Nisei, and otherwise Hanny can buy himself some time. And mind you, all Hanny's economy, things like liberated accounts, things like daily cast, they're all going to cost 2 extra cards to install with that current.
It also looks like an NGO there.
And that's a double advance. And
Yeah, exactly.
Kyle probably didn't do that at the best time. That now obviously looks like a Nisei. If he installed double advance that, it might look like an Obakata. I think it's kind of sold it, but Hanny has no play here besides take 3 to 4 credits. Looks like we're going to get advance Nisei token on the board. Kyle. Sneaking back up there. Unfortunately, my cards from the core set don't work really well on this overlay. Nisei Mark II, 4-2 agenda. Gets a token. You can use that token at any point in time to end a run. Very strong for chaining agendas. And that double advance also gives Kyle the ability to jam a card into that remote server. We're 5-5. Things are really bad. Hanny kind of ran out of gas there, going all in on some pretty dicey single accesses. Employee Strike does make that remote a bit easier to run. Kylo's going to have to worry about his economy, and same old thing is getting played. That's probably a divide and conquer. 3 credits for another desperation play. Going to access archives first. And mind you, if Kyle had a card in HQ, he could consider using the Nisei token single off the top. That's a thimble rig. That's not what an agenda looks like.
They should access the HQ first.
Yeah, I think you access HQ
Yeah,
first.
HQ.
Single access, that's a Kaku again. Nothing learned. That's 3 credits to play. 2 clicks, 3 credits. Hanny. Absolutely desperate here, clawing out what could possibly be a win. And mind you, there's not a lot of agendas still in the deck, right? Like that's 6, 10 agendas out of the game.
Yeah, this deck's running a low amount of agenda.
I think there's only 4 agendas left in all in R&D, and Hanny is trying to get the single access off the top.
Yeah.
Now, indexing definitely a really strong card, but when you get servers like this, it's less favorable to something like a Maker's Eye, something like a big multi-axis single card. Install advance, that might be a double advance, and that's a hedge fund. Now, Hanny needs to be able to get into the remote server, that's the agenda. He needs to run it twice with the Nisei token, let alone have credits. He's at 1 credit, I've had worse to draw 3. If he draws a stim hack, if he draws 2 stim hacks, that's his only chance, but it looks like he drew into more draw cards. If that is not an NGO front, Kyle is going to be coming back from the precipice of defeat. 2 credits. Throwing out a black orchestra. Kyle has it. Obakata coming back 0 to 8 points. What a sweet Mati Makundo getting it done. Not economy as much as installation of cards for free. The pressure running central servers. Handy getting to 5 on turn 1 and not being able to close it out. Just the absolute desperation there. You see the neurostasis in hand. So close. You know what? I think even maybe you want to just run the remote to make Kyle spend credits. He might just have to spend credits.
You should have forced him to res and
I think you have to do something.
and force it to use his effect or stuff.
That's difficult. Hanny's going to be thrown down to the loser's brackets. Good, well played, Kyle. You know, you find yourself in dire circumstances like that. The power of an Nisei token. If you get one of those scored, it's easier to protect your stuff. But really well played, holding on to what looked like a very bad play. Oh, apparently I'm getting too loud. We got a bit too excited there. Well, I think we still have about 25 minutes left in the round. I think we're going to try and build a bigger barrier, build us a bigger audio fort here.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for watching. Is there a game going on at table 2? No, looks like they're done as well. So we're going to throw it to a break. We'll be right back. We have a second game of the Top Cup. Here's the Montreal Regionals. Thanks so much for joining us. Hey, Ben, GG. Thanks so much for your overlays, Ben. Found them, figured out how to do Node CG. Huge props. By the way, we're here. We're in a sunny corner. It's too loud where we are. But apparently we're too loud, which is the issue. So we're going to be whispering for the rest of this as well. We'll be right back. I'm going to throw it to a timer. And we'll be back with the next game.
So let's find him.
I had two of my additional hands, which I did for the double cast. So that was one thing.
So then a lot of your economy goes away.
No, but then you have scarcity of resources most of the time too. So even if I find
Heads. Yes.
so simple.
So we got this.
Damn, we're
So
good.
simple, Julien. So
No.
simple.
No, it's not.
I could do without the stress of losing 5 points on the first turn again. Though.
Here you go.
For retrospect, what was that?
Here. That's my walker.
I don't think I'm no. Sorry.
few times sunset becomes relevant.
Right?
Because that card
No?
was horrifically bad.
Yeah, me neither. Just want to see if they're like upside down.
I get both sides. I don't
If you
want
could
to
like
be in
split
the
up my
sunlight.
agendas after I shuffle, that'd be great too. Maybe like every 5 cards.
I didn't dictate the rules here, okay? I agree. It could move over there. It certainly can move over there.
I don't know, you can move. Whatever. We'll just slow play.
I'm buying a bottle of water if I get on there. There's no way I'm not playing without water.
Should be included.
I've learned from Damon. Hydration is key.
Yeah. Here you go. And yeah, here. I smell agendas here. That's for real. Look. Can we start? Can we play? There's glare, like.
I couldn't decide which seat was better.
I'll do it like that because there's glare on.
Listen, here's the thing. We all know this is the best seat here. Out of this whole table, yes, you have the biggest seat.
I mean, the best seat is in like the back hall where you can actually feel AC.
There's AC?
I'm pretty sure it's speaking from the next door. But
Oh, I have to play one of you after?
Hey, welcome back to Metroball Grid. My name is Andre. This is a 2018 Netrunner Regionals here in Montreal, the last Regionals. We're at BD Cosmos at Laval. We got to whisper pretty quietly because we're actually pretty close to their table. We are behind a fort of styrofoam panels that we made. I'm joined by Remy.
Yeah.
Remy's on the mic. He's a bit quiet. You have to get really close if you want to talk, by the way.
Hi.
And we have here, this is game 2. On the left we have Kyle Chu. We saw Kyle Chu play the Matimakundo deck just about 20 minutes ago. He came back from a 0-point deficit. It was 0-5 on turn 1. He managed to scrape back. They both played Corp last round, so this is a randomized selection. Roberto, one of the 2 players from Montreal in the regionals, so I'm going to be a bit biased towards Roberto. We need to take home our own regionals here. Playing the Valencia, we're right by a window, so that start lighting is going to change soon. As of now, let's just say it's Cyberpunk. So we saw Kyle Chu's list. I think maybe Kyle Joe. I think he wrote, it's pronounced Joe. His list, it's pretty standard Glacier. We're on 3 Nisei Mark IIs. The power of that combined with Mombet City Grid, Sandstorm, and I think, what's that one called?
Which one?
That upgrade that makes you re-encounter the ice. Code Replicator.
Code Replicator, yeah.
I think we have 40 minutes. It starts right now.
Yeah.
That timer's just about right. And it looks like install Ice Advance. Now, Roberto, as a restricted card, does have Employee Strike, which is one of his best options. He can play Employee Strike, run the remote. We're expecting that to be a Rashida Yahim, which turn 1 gives you credits, gives you card draw, and there's the Rashida Yahim. And that's kind of one of the big powers here in Matimakundo. You don't have to ice up. You don't have to ice that up. Normally that's a 1 credit trash, but Rashida Yahim is going to come out. It's going to draw you 3 cards, give you 3 credits. Cards in hand is so valuable for Matimakundo. You want ice selection in hand. You want cards that you can install midway during a run. And the ice suite that we have here that Kyle is running, it's actually really well teched for Anarchs. A lot of the bigger code gates are kind of hard to deal with. 2 DNA trackers. We have 3 News Hounds, which and the run sentry that Anarch actually struggles to break with no other support. MK Ultra is playing 6 to get through that, which is a lot for 2 credit ice. And it looks like we have an install advance behind a single ice. Could be an NGO front bluff. Looks like Roberto is going to be injecting up. He needs to get through there.
Looking his breaker.
He does get some breakers in the bin. He loses an Amakua. Actually, that's a very good card in this matchup. I think we have, this is Roberto's list. Roberto doesn't have a David, so his only way to break Sandstorms, if he needs to, is an Amakua with 5 counters, which is a bit of a tall ask.
Or Data Sucker.
Or Data Sucker, yeah.
And Ice Carver.
But he still needs Amakua, because it's typeless, right?
True.
Roberto does have Ice Carver, which, you know, the way you see Kyle playing right here, it actually might be too slow of a card. If he scores a Nisei on this turn, it's super easy for him to install another agenda, and like they'll be chained together really quickly. And we saw Kyle close out a game in about 7 to 8 turns last game, starting at 0 points. Off the top, we have an IPO. I think you can hear the table talk a bit. You hear Roberto, and that's 0 coming down. 0, a hell of a card. We're seeing 3 of this in just basically every Anarch deck. The value of taking damage doesn't really matter when you want to get your breakers in the bin. This is just good card draw, good economy, cycles through your deck. Losing that Mad Dash makes it very obvious to Kyle that Roberto is on indexing. If I'm not mistaken, actually, Kyle is not playing Miraju, which is one of the easiest ways to tech against indexing. He's not on that. He has no real... whoa, that actually, I think, was a double advance. That is an NGO front, which is just credits. That's very good for...
money.
Yeah, it gets good money, but Roberto doesn't need to run that. It feels very good that he doesn't have to interact with that. But this gives the credits that Kyle needs now. That's the single advance. That's a double ice single advance.
So you advance another time and it's all advance now.
Yeah, that is definitely looking like it's a Nisei.
Yeah.
There's no other good single advance target there, and he has no fast advance tricks, so... Oh, that's not good. We lost our signal. Give us 1 second, we'll be right back. I think someone probably pulled out a cable. Uh-oh.
You could like rest. Yeah, that's not gonna work. Yeah. Let's just wait a second until there. Oh yeah, I think you can just like put it there. We did it.
So afraid.
I don't know. I think it's gonna be good.
Okay. No, I just found
So I did 1-2. 3-0. Cards.
And we're back. Our camera actually cooked off in the sun, and it turned itself off with a heat warning. So we did reposition some styrofoam as some impromptu curtains, and it looks like there we go, Nisei token on the table.
Yeah.
That is 2 points up for Kyle, and that is the one agenda that you can pair into other agendas. That just keeps rolling. Now Roberto does have the turntable, which is the best tech that Anarch really has, which might actually make Kyle use that Nisei token a bit more liberally. Because a single axis, you might even consider swapping a 3-pointer for a 2-pointer.
You can put pressure on the other server and like not be afraid.
That employee strike also is really good. Employee strike, you can run R&D.
So now you could start like indexing or stuff like that.
Yeah, indexing would be a really good draw
So
here.
you would force him to use his Nisei token.
Yeah, I think you would need, say, the indexing anyways, but it looks, there you go, that's the indexing off the top.
Exactly.
I don't have the art for that card, unfortunately.
Indexing is not in the...
So that's 5 cards off the top. He can choose to use the Nisei token, and I would be surprised if he doesn't, considering it's so easy for him to lose the Nisei token off of the indexing with the turntable. Let's see, 5 cards off the top. And he can't install ice in the way of the second run. Wow, we can't even see what those cards are. They're all really hot. I think there's an agenda in there. That it was either an Opacata or an envelope. Really bright cards that Roberto's holding there.
The problem is like the guy can always use his Nisei token to stop the last run, so he has 1 click left.
Yeah, you just run back twice. I don't know what click it is actually.
He has 1 click left.
Oh, if he has 1 click left, then you might put it further on the bottom and then run anyways to see if he uses the counter.
Yeah, it's probably a technique.
Even if he uses the counter though, it's just going to go into HQ behind a thimble rig, which is not particularly strong. So let's see what Roberto has done. It looks like he might only have one click left. And it looks like there's nothing there, or he chooses not to run, and it looks like he drew a Kakugo.
He also zeroed the Matthew.
Yeah. So ice on R&D. Roberto might be tempted to think it's a Kakugo, considering he just gave it off to Kyle, and we have something in remote. On advanced cards are not that scary. It basically means it's either an upgrade or Rashida, and that's something you got to plan for. You want to get those upgrades out of that server before they matter, before you're running on an agenda, because it's they really, really combo. 1 strike, 2 index, 3 strike, 2 index, I think is what Roberto's on.
He strike 0 and index. Then gain credit.
So Roberto might not have seen an agenda in there, and I think he might consider contesting the remote. It's very important to see Kyle doesn't have a lot of credits. Kyle's sitting on 7, and it's very easy for Roberto to bury the credits, or bury any sort of econ cards. It's actually he's running second click, and he knows what that card is, which definitely tempts Kyle into spending the Nisei token here. It doesn't matter that much. That News Hound has an end to run due to the employee strike of Roberto's own playing. That card does not care where the current came from, as long as the current is in play. That's all that matters. And that's actually a really well-positioned sentry with an end to run subroutine. And if Roberto wants to get through that, that's 2 credits to install the MK Ultra, and then another 5 to break. He gets the bad publicity on there, and that is such a steal. Philotic Entanglement swapping for the Nisei token. That Nisei token still remains on the agenda, but you can't use that on the other side. 2-2, Nisei, D-toothed. That's a huge turn for Roberto, and you saw with 1 click left, he very smartly did not run back for that.
I'm quite surprised he didn't use his Nisei token, even though
it's a hard buff, and I don't know, yeah, I guess he might as well use it. He's never getting it back. It's not like he's on exchange or anything like that, so you might not want to just use it there, but it might have been a bluff too.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. So Roberto, I think, largely back into that. Turntable, definitely a hell of a card. It really stops Kyle from wanting to rush 3-point agendas, because if Roberto steals, there's only 2 more 2-pointers in the game, but he can swap those backwards.
Yeah, exactly. You should have used his MK token, but at the same time, you don't know if it's a bait or something.
It could easily be a bait. The thing is, if he baits it, it costs Roberto only 5 more credits, and there's a chance he uses it on nothing, so it's kind of a hard sell, but I could see why you would do it.
But at the same time, you could put that agenda on the server and then score it.
Yeah. So card's still in the remote server. It doesn't look like it's a Rashida. It's probably either the Replicator or Mombat City Grid, and if you're not familiar with Mombat City Grid, very strong card, seeing a lot more play here. Has a lot of cool shenanigans when it comes to oh man, my keyboard. Has a lot of cool shenanigans when it comes down to things like the Mati ability. It also has a lot of value when it comes to repositioning your ice with the Thimble Rig. And if you can make one of your ice, the othermost ice, a really strong ice, which you can reposition with Thimble Rig, you can make that a Surveyor. You're going to have to encounter that 3 to 4 times when you're running that server. And that's an absurdly strong defensive upgrade for only 3 credits. Roberto, he runs HQ now. He has a lot of that value. Getting the Data Sucker tokens, only paying 2 credits to break the Thimble Rig. Doesn't look like there's agendas in HQ, but Roberto is setting up. He does have the turntable. He does have that 0 draw. He's looking for the 3 copies of Clan Vengeance he has in his deck. If he gets that disruption down, it turns off. It makes the Mati ability a lot worse. And Mining Accident, giving Kyle an option here. And you see, oh, it looks like is he not paying? I don't think he's paying. That's some bad pub. And going down to what it would be 3 credits, it's really hard for Mati to recover from. A lot of the econ cards have a base cost of 5 or more. He's not playing Celebrity Gift, so going down to 3 is going to make sure his next couple turns are just click for credit. And 2 bad pub is a really big deal. That lets him run HQ for only 1 credit, get Data Sucker tokens, get access. Better saying, did Roberto play Gamble from 4 credits? I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't think so. Roberto looks to clear his Liberator. There's the Ice Carver. That Ice Carver saves 3 credits when running through the new sound, but specifically he played that just to make sure the 1 card in his hand is an Eye Worse, which he hits with 0. Draw 5 cards, gain a credit. Clan Vengeance must be in that hand by now. And it looks like casts. That's a setup. Kyle has a lot of work to do, and you see, this is where you start with the Thimble Rig shenanigans, building their good remote. He wants good ice on HQ, because HQ is now not well protected, and Thimble Rig, a super flexible card, makes him ensure that he can get the good ice on HQ, make sure it's not just a hard end to run, so turning wheel counters can't be farmed in the near future. This is a one influence card, mind you. Very wacky card. And there you go, that's 2 ice on our remote server. He needs to spend his cards and credits installing cards in the remote server, considering that employee strike is up. I think there's 2 more scarcity that Kyle could lean on if he wants it, but it's going to be very hard for him to turn off the current, otherwise he's going to have to score through it. So Roberto, I don't know whether his paperclip's in the bin, but he's relatively set up, and now the pressure on HQ is going to mount. Clan Vengeance is going to get a counter every time he takes net damage, and that net damage is not only going to happen from the 0, there's the paperclip, but it also disincentivizes Kyle from resing things like Kakugo. Because Roberto could just run the Kakugo to ensure that he wipes all of HQ. Clan Vengeance obviously, well not obviously so much, but a huge presence here in the Montreal meta. Just a very strong Anarch card. A lot of the Anarch cards right now seeing play 0 and Clan Vengeance as an engine for HQ disruption, card draw, and economy. Very, very strong, especially for an ability that wants to install cards from HQ.
All deck that relies with cards in their hand are like really disrupted by Clan Vengeance.
Yeah, you've seen a lot of Wayland decks struggle against that exact combo.
As well as MTI, because like they need their ice, and like when they want to trigger their effect, if they don't have cards in hand, they can't trigger it.
I think you see Kyle there drew the Sandstorm, which is actually a card that Roberto has no answer to. He could get the Amakua back, but say, I guess the Employee Strike is on, so it's a bit difficult, but if the Employee Strike is off, Roberto runs through that whole remote server, Kyle throws down the Sandstorm, and then gets thrown onto any other server. And that's absolutely absurd. Roberto literally doesn't have a way to deal with it. Even on the outside of the server, it basically costs him another click on that server, which is pretty good. And 0 taking more damage, losing the stim hack to draw 2, gain a credit. Still drawing through his deck relatively well. Right now, there's 2 power cards I think Roberto's looking for. He wants to keep stim hacks on hand to contest the remote, but he also wants a turning wheel, and he wants a rebirth.
Yeah.
Rebirth with no ice on archives, that's something that Kyle probably wants to do preemptively. Every Val deck at a competitive tables is largely running 1 rebirth. You generally rebirth into Omar just to pressure all central servers. It's very good. With indexing, set that up, run R&D through archives. And he needs to find it. In a 50 card deck, all his card draw is inject, I've had worse, and of course 0. It's going to take him a bit. He's booking HQ. It's always good to make the corp spend some money when they have a server with 4 ice. It means they probably are saving their ice for their remote server, or their credits. Looks like we got a single access here, and if I'm not mistaken, there was 1 Opakata in hand at some point. It's another new sound. Data sucker token. Oh, he has the turning wheel, excuse me. And you might actually keep running that over and over again just to build a turning wheel, because then R&D is definitely a threat. Yeah, Data Sucker and Ice Carver get a lot of value. There's a lot of ice that he'll end up breaking for 3 credits.
Yeah, it's making...
Look at that Thimble Rig value. Swapping the ice around, getting that good end the run on the remote server. It looks like it might be double advance. That might just be the Obakata we've seen before. I think it's 1 click left.
No, he installed a card in that server.
I think it's just his hand.
Okay.
So in hand, it's just a lot of ice. Now, he can't install any of that in the run, and while it might not look like he can res all that ice on the remote server, the big thing to understand is with 3 times Surveyor in his deck, just getting a number of ice on the remote server and then paying 5 is going to get a whopping Trace 8 double. And the run, Sentry. And that's a good reason why Data Sucker and Ice Carver are good. At some point, he might actually break all the Surveyors for only 3 credits. He just lost his Amaku. He has no way to deal with Sandstorm. And these players haven't seen each other's deck list. I don't know if Roberto is aware that Sandstorm is going to be an issue. Does not have David. Might have wanted an Amakua.
He has no more way to deal with that Sandstorm.
No, he doesn't.
Except Maxwell James?
Maxwell James, Clan Vengeance. Those are his only 2 ways, I suppose. And that's still a fair bit of ways.
Yeah.
Now, if this is an agenda, and it might just be an NGO front, I only think we've seen one so far, that turns off the current, which is actually probably the most relevant thing. Obviously, going to game point matters. But if he scores a 3-point agenda right now, Roberto might not mind. Because if Roberto gets any other agenda, Turntable is going to swap a 2 for a 3.
And New Sound Fizzle as well.
Yeah, it does turn off the end run on New Sound, and that's probably a reason why Kyle put that on the remote server right now. Because in 1 turn, It doesn't matter if it's on R&D. He could have swapped it the next turn, but it's also a good end to run on the remote.
He also has Clan Vengeance, which is like kind of boosted right now. Like I have 3 counter on it, I think.
Yeah, it has 3 counters,
And, like,
which
he can turn off MPI effective.
he can. And his hand is only ice, I think.
Yeah.
I think he only knows one of the cards. He actually knows a couple of these cards because they did come through the indexing. Roberto rolled a 3. That's going to see a Sandstorm, and this is the first time he sees that card in this deck, and I don't know if he realizes that's going to be an issue or not, because imagine running through a 4-ice central or 4-ice remote server just to hit the Sandstorm and then go in archives. It's going to be a problem. He's charging it.
He's going for it?
He's doing it. That run looked like he has a Maxwell run. It actually is a Maxwell run. He put the Maxwell James down.
Oh yeah, he just put Maxwell.
That is such a strong card for 1 influence. Not only does it give you a link, it lets you de-res a card midway through a run. So,
Forcing the corp to res.
yeah, Kyle can res a piece of ice. Roberto can trash Maxwell James. And then the ice is de-resed, and Kyle can't re-res it, which is basically like an inside job and an emergency shutdown all at once. Kyle's thinking. He's sitting on 12 credits. He's going to need generally 2 for his upgrade. He's going to need generally 3 to score his agenda. Even if he get his credits down just to a point where he can't score, it's relatively good. And Data Sucker plus support plus Ice Carver, things are relatively pretty cool. It looks like he missed a turning wheel counter. I think the judge got that. 22 minutes left in the round. Kyle understands this is all about the Glacier Remote, not spending too much time icing Central servers, and we got to see where he can put his money where his mouth is. Is that remote server going to hold up? And he's thinking.
I think on this thing the remote is quite a good option right now.
I like it. I like it a fair bit. Too bad pup, even if he breaks 1 ice and ends the run sometimes, like...
And force him to res as well, which...
First ice, no res.
Because sometimes people are too afraid of those servers and like they...
Okay, so there's a ruling here that I'm not actually sure how it works. That's Code Replicator and Thimble Rig. And you can place Thimble Rig in a different place once you passed it. We sorted this one out. We had to agree how we were going to rule this, because I think we're missing a ruling on this one. So Code Replicator is going to be... It's going to make Roberto re-encounter that ice, so that's another 3 credits.
Yeah, that's expensive.
And now he's going to put it somewhere else, so he has to deal with it another time for another 3 credits.
He's wasting his credit for 2.
Yeah, and he's gonna run out of credits because he still needs 3 to get through that new sound. I think he's actually 1 credit short.
That's a really expensive.
He could consider Maxwell jamming the new sound. I think he might have to, but if he wants to get in this remote server, he's 1 credit short.
Yeah.
He has 5 left. Oh no, he's fine. He's fine.
fine.
It's 6. No, yeah, he just needs Maxwell James one of these.
Yeah.
So that's 3.
If it's not like an NGO fund or stuff. Oh, he's switching it like that?
Yeah,
Okay.
he can push it back.
Why did he swap it? He should have forced him to pay more with that. Oh no, it's the same price.
It's the same because he has Ice Carver. I don't know, maybe he just had enough credits, but Roberto's going to get in. He's stealing the Obokata, gets to keep 1 card. Loses those, not the worst cards to lose, and it gets another counter on the Clan Vengeance, which is actually the most importantly. Also, Roberto now on game point, up on 5, and it looks like that employee strike is going to be here to stay, which Roberto is definitely happy about. 5-2, and Kyle didn't actually end up spending that many credits on the remote server. He's going to Thimble Rig around that ice, and look at that. I love that when you see all the ice being repositioned at once.
Also, you can now start putting a lot of pressure on those remote server.
Yeah.
It's like the turntable is there, turning wheel, sorry. Like
Yeah, Thimble Rig on the outside is actually a huge issue when it comes to turning wheel. Roberto could spend his entire turn just smashing into the rig. Probably not the best use of his clicks, considering he is sitting at only 2 bad pub and 2 credits coming in from the daily casts. He also did forget the Clan Vengeance from the Obokata. We'll see if that matters in this game. But he still has the Maxwell James, which is probably the best thing. And you saw that 3 credit ice, that Thimble Rig, I think it's a 2 credit ice. He had to spend, like what, 12 credits breaking at that turn? Just over and over again. A very well positioned ice against Black Orchestra. But imagine he had the Amakua. The Amakua breaks out for 1 credit a hit. Probably worth installing.
yeah, I think he should have put his Omoko down when he could.
Yeah. So he's trashing 3 from hand. I think he missed 1 Obokata Protocol counter, and that just gets ice out of hand. It doesn't get anything of that good value. I'm not mistaken, there's an upgrade in there? That kind of looks like he has a... It kind of looks like a Brian Stinson.
No.
No, it's not a Brian Stinson.
Is this the neurostasis?
Yeah, I don't know. It looked green. It probably is just a surveyor. Another card in the remote server. Employee strike still online. Roberto, 2 credits. Hasn't seen a rebirth just yet. But a very strong card at the moment. Gets free runs off the top of R&D once per turn. 2 credits and 2 bad pubs still gets pretty far. And Kyle still has some digging to do. Has to dig up. Zero hitting the 1 card in hand. He's trashing a strike. Roberto had to think about that. That's a really good card, but a credit and 2 card draw is definitely good. He's checking archives, just wants to see what he threw out. Nothing of value. That's a surveyor and a non-say 2 big ice, and IPO is actually kind of okay.
Surveyor's a good card to get as well.
And he drew to inject, a really good draw right now. Can get him to other daily casts, maybe eventually into a dirty laundry, but he's just going to click for 3. He wants a threat.
Yeah.
He wants to be able to threaten the remote server, and off the top, I don't know what that is he has off the top. I think, so we know his hand is Sandstorm, Newshound, Kakugo, and maybe another Sandstorm off the top. That's an SSL endorsement. He has a big old 3-pointer in his hand. A non-defensive 3-pointer is an HQ. Roberto probably wants to poke HQ before he runs the remote server anyways, just to make sure Maxwell James is online. And so that is going to be an issue. That SSL, he needs to find out a way, something to do with it.
He's probably gonna start farming Turning Token soon as well.
He might be.
I think
he needs to set up his economy a bit more before.
Like
and icing archives.
The ice double rig on R&D is like a free token.
Yeah.
So
I just think he might need a bit more money. He's injecting, and there's the money he needs, right?
Yeah, and the clan vengeance as well.
Liberated accounts is 6 credits a cost. He's short 2. Double click for credit is a bit slow, and he has a lot of cards in hand. Probably doesn't want to waste them entirely, but there's it's not very easy for him to make credits unless he just slams that liberated and gets going.
I think he should get credits right now.
I think there's also still 2 Stimac in his deck.
I don't know if he threw some of them.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he threw it, but I think he's at least thrown 1.
Yeah.
And that's a double credit. I don't think installing Liberated is right here for the last click. You're playing around scarcity, but it puts you down to 0 credits at start of turn, which makes your next turn really unflexible. And it looks like we're rearranging. That's really good. That probably means there's a Mumbad city grid in the remote server, because if the outer ice is the worst piece of ice, you're going to have to ride it down the whole server.
Yeah.
And that SSL is 5 credits to score. And that doesn't allow a lot of credits for the remote server, but that hedge fund there is going to help make things a lot more comfortable for Kyle. Liberated coming down, no real surprise. Take 4.
Yeah.
And there we're going. We're building up counters again. We're putting the pressure on.
He's using his 0 to get counters.
Client Vengeance, make sure that the Corp just can't sit there and gain credits, which is a good thing. Losing the last strike, mind you. But it's a lot of pressure. We're seeing a lot of it. I know a lot of people are a bit fed up of that card. Repositioning the ice once more. I love this thimble rig. It makes you plan 2-3 turns in advance. It makes you do all these really cool plays where you want to figure out where you get your ice at what point in time and you plan for it. It's also just fun to move cards around. Install. Looks like it's a double advance. That's a SSL. I think it's SSL. SSL endorsement. Even if it's stolen or if it's scored, it's a big deal for Kyle because it gives 9 credits. If it's stolen, we'll give Kyle 9 credits, but also we'll end the game before that point. So
you will also get the employee strike. He will remove the employee strike if you
and that's the last strike. I think we've seen the other 2 got trashed to 0 damage. So if Roberto runs HQ and then runs the remote server, whatever ice that he's not the most worried about, whatever ice is threatening to be Mumbad City Grid, he can de-res it. Now the problem is, he only has 3 credits, so he's going to need to take money. He's going to need to Stimac. It looks like he might just go take 8?
12, I think. No, that 8, yeah.
No, I think that's 12. That's 12. So he's 1 click left. That means he has no chance for the max wall in this turn.
He's probably gonna stim. He doesn't have a Stimac.
I don't think he has a Stimac, but that Maxwell seems like a lot more value. Mind you, with Data Sucker and Ice Carver, that potentially 8 strength surveyor is not even that big of an issue.
Also at this point, you don't mind letting it 3 points to your opponent if you know it's not an Issei, because like an Issei would be a more problem because you can't contest remote.
Yeah, the Nisei is a huge problem. It looks like we're not contesting it.
But if it's not an Issei, I guess when you're at that say twice, it's.
What's it has that is a Nisei?
I don't know. That's the thing. Is it baiting him?
Because I think we see another agenda in hand. Maybe that's a Mumbet Secret in hand, actually. It looks like we're getting triple advance. That is the SSL endorsement. That's 9 more credits for Kyle. Whoa! What is going on there? Sorry, our overlay goofed in a really fun way. That's 5-5. Kyle, bringing it back to game point. This is anyone's game now, and it looks like it's click 1 indexing. Roberto can close this turn. Strike is offline, mind you. I don't know if Roberto remembered that, but with only 10 credits, there's not that much Kyle can install. That's going to be a huge issue. It's a really good time to go in now before the 3 more credits come in. And Thimble Rig gonna be reinstalled. Look how much value of the Thimble Rig. Black Orchestra breaking for 3.
Yeah, for 2 res cards, it's really good.
Absolutely absurd, and that's a Sandstorm. There we go. That's the card we talk about. That's the one that Roberto has no way of breaking. That just turns off the indexing. That's really good tech. Mind you, I saw this card do so much work in Toronto last week. You need a David, you need the Amakua, and we have none of that. That's gonna move Roberto to a different server, which means the indexing just doesn't work.
Yeah, he did a really good play doing this.
Roberto was pretty confident that indexing was going to close the game, but it looks like he's now on another server.
Does he get the
turning wheel? It matters when the run ends.
Okay, cool.
And he just spent 5 credits to get to that point. Actually, I think it's only 4 credits with 2 bad pub.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, David could not break that anymore because Ice Carver is out. Actually, that's a good point, blue-haired. 0 is going to be ticking up again. That's 1 card. That's another copy of 0. You don't really need that. That's a credit, 2 cards, a Clan Vengeance token. And Roberto's now's plan is to contest the remote. He can also run for singles, mind you.
Why would he contest the remote?
Well, that's how he. I mean, like that's probably how he wins. I think he's lost 2 indexing.
Losing the employee strike is current. He probably will have a good problem against MTI.
Well, so that it's off now, right? Like MTI's off, so you might want to just poke HQ to get accesses. You can even just run R&D here for 1 credit. It doesn't look like Kyle's wanting to res his ice. He has 9 more credits coming off the SSL, and it's looked like it's last click poke.
Okay, he's trying to get accesses.
And the ability for Mati has already been used this turn. So he knows that it's only going to be 1 unresed ice and what should be around 1 credit. It looks like it's no res. 1 credit's going to get an access. Going to get a turning wheel counter. He can access 2. It looks like he is. Repositioning. That's 2 cards off the top. This could be game. Off the top, NGO front. You're going to trash that for 1 credit.
Would you?
Yeah.
I mean, this guy's going to draw it, so it's not an agenda.
He can draw the scarcity if he wants. With that, it's hard because if he draws it, not only does he get money, which is good, but like you don't know if install advance is agenda or not. I think he definitely trashed the NGO.
True, but at the same time, yeah, because you don't know if he has.
Yeah, because you have to run whatever he devil installs. You want to make sure it's an agenda.
SSL was scoring.
SSL was scored last turn. That's going to give 9 cards coming in slowly, and that's probably just enough money that Kyle needs to end the game. Scarcity off the top, which I don't even think he needs to play anymore. I think there might be another Liberated, maybe another daily cast that Roberto could consider playing. But all 3 employee strikes are out. Mind you, 10 minutes left, so a resolution will be reached. Kyle, second game, he's digging up.
I think right now Roberto should really start farming.
Roberto either needs to farm counters or get really lucky on a single axis, and that's probably not how this game's going to end. He needs to be farming counters. He needs those stim hacks. He needs the cards to contest the remote servers. And that's a code replicator off the top of the deck. First click Kyle is going to draw that replicator. Very strong card as well.
Yeah.
And Kyle is planning to build an unassailable remote server. So he's sitting on 11 credits. We're assuming there's surveyors on the remote server. We did see 1 announce in the bin. That's the only announce. We saw 1 surveyor in the bin. It looks like we're going to get a replicator in there and play that scarcity just to slow down Roberto a bit. I don't think it's going to matter that much.
It puts news out online though. So
it puts a news hound. That's definitely the best part.
Yeah.
And I think there's another news hound in hand. And again, it's only 3 credits to break, but it's a pretty cheap console. Or, wow, GP size. Excuse me.
Yeah, you see how his small eyes did a lot of job. Like,
Yeah, like so far he's res 2 ice all game,
Yeah.
and I think Roberto has broken 3 credits for that thimble rig, maybe 5 or 6 times. Again, can't overstate how good an Amakua would have been, breaking that for 1 credit.
that's really good
It's a
against
huge deal.
Anar cards like
Yeah.
Shaper. You would have.
Yeah, you break that
more-
for 1
yeah,
in
you break
Shaper
for one,
generally.
like, force him to res, but like.
Roberto running R&D, looks like we're just farming turning wheel tokens. He can run that 3 times, run R&D. And it looks like he's going through it this time. He ran twice, he's going for a run. So let's see. 10 credits, 6 more waiting on the SSL. Kyle has his ability. He can get this ice. He can even make Roberto re-encounter that thimble rig if he cares to.
I think you should. Depends on what you want to res.
Also, Kyle does have IP block, so there is some downsides to installing the Amakua, but I still think it's probably worth it. And that's a big one. That's a DNA tracker. And while Kyle is definitely not trying to kill Roberto, just doing the damage ensures that Roberto is unable to steal an Obokata protocol. And DNA tracker is a really expensive ice. He can break that for only 3 credits, or actually 5 credits altogether if he uses all his data suckers in combination with...
So you let fire one of them?
It looks like 1 is firing, and that actually gives him tokens for Clan Vengeance. There's a chance he's going to let it all fire.
Does he let all of them?
Yeah, it looks like he's letting all that fire.
That's a good Clan Vengeance.
I would actually probably keep 1 card in hand just so I can steal Obokata, but Clan Vengeance is now full.
Yeah.
And he doesn't even have to make a successful run here. You can just wait for him to draw mandatorily and trash it. And that's the last Clan
The
Vengeance.
problem though is like if he loses cards, he's not gonna be able to steal that Obokata.
No, he can't. And he has too few cards for Obokata, which is unfortunate. Is he using all the counters already?
He's looking for the Nisei.
He's using all the counters just so that he can not encounter another piece of ice. GG! Off the top. Roberto finding the Nisei Mark II. Absolutely ripped off the top there. Was going to see, I think, 3 cards.
Yeah.
And he couldn't steal Obokata. I think the agenda is there's only 1 Nisei and 2 Obokatas left in the deck. So only 3 agendas. It was Nisei into Nisei.
Yeah.
Roberto pulling it out. 7 points. Montreal still going strong. That's going to knock Kyle down to losers tables, or the bottom tables. Roberto is now in winners semifinals. And that is the good old Glacier of like reminds me of old Replicating Perfection if you were playing the game back in the day. Build that remote server, make it very taxing to get through, make your servers relatively taxing as well, your centrals. But I wonder, there's actually a big chance that Clan Vengeance was necessary to make sure there's no ice in hand, but 2 Niseis in a row, not much you can do about that.
These cards are really good against. Is Ice of MDI or really good against?
Yeah, it's really tech for Anarch.
Yeah.
If you're just tuning in, this is the Montreal Regionals 2018. Let's go, Roberto. We have a bunch more games at the top 8. I think this is actually the point where we take a break and we cut to the lower bracket tables. I'm going to go fix the camera, make sure the lighting is a bit better, but we will be right back. Thanks so much for watching. I'm going to throw the timer up. We have 10 minutes in the round. We'll probably be back in less than 10 minutes. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll be right back.
Yeah, on the outside. Yeah. Yeah, what's that you and I said? I was just thinking about that. Do I play right now? Do I have to play another game? capable de faire un link là-dessus? Oh, share. There. Copy to clipboard.
Welcome back. That was not as long as we possibly thought it would have been. And we got a double Montreal winners finals. On the left we have Roberto Linto. We've been watching Roberto play all day up there at the top tables. On the left we have Julien Deville, who I think he was about second in Swiss, coming out 18, a really strong strength of schedule. And Julien's on the outfit, an ability or an ID that we've actually been seeing also a fair bit so far this event. Now that's Bad Pub versus Bad Pub, Valencia versus the outfit. If you're not familiar with the outfit, every time you take on a bad publicity, you gain 3 credits, which transfers. It gives them money for doing all the good stuff that they want to do. It makes some of their ice cheaper. It makes their agendas faster. It even lets them play some assets that let draw cards, make it a no-win situation.
And they're gonna have more money for trace and stuff.
You have to get way closer.
Okay.
Like you have to be as close as I am.
And they're gonna have a lot of money for traces with the bad pub, so it's good.
So if you're just tuning in, welcome. This is the Netrunner Montreal Regionals 2018. This is our final regionals. We're at BD Cosmos out here in Laval. This is the location of the first ever Montreal Regionals, and it looks like it's the last official Montreal Regional, so it's good to be back out here in Laval. We had 25 players. 25 players came out. A lot of players came in from Ottawa and Toronto. I think in the top 8 cut. We only have 2 from Montreal competing today. That's the 2 right here. It looks like one of them will be in the finals no matter what. The other player still hasn't. Neither of these players have lost a match, so whoever loses this match goes down to the losers finals and is going to be playing for a chance to return to the finals. So the finals could still be these 2.
Yeah.
Now, both of these players are both on Valencia and both on an Argus Hard-Hitting News Kill Rush deck, which has been proving to be really good this tournament. Not only does it disincentivize the lies of Talking Thunder, but it has some pretty good tempo, some pretty good plays, some very strong ice. And these 2 players were not actually showing deck lists to one another before this tournament or before this top cut, but these 2 players are pretty familiar with each other's cards, both Montreal players.
Yeah.
They have seen each other's decks a fair bit. Looks like we're going to be starting it in just a couple of minutes. I think we have 40 minutes for rounds here in the top cut. It might be 45. I think it's 40. And after that, with the top cut, I think we jump to an hour. Get a bit longer. Team Roberto in chat. All right, we're doing mulligans. We're going to set up the timer. Where are we at? Okay, we gotta make this timer good. How does this work?
Yeah.
That'll just about do it. That timer's not 100% accurate, but it'll give you an idea. So, game plans here. Roberto Linto, restricted card. He's on employee strike, which doesn't do that much in this matchup. It stops them from getting some credits, but it's not the biggest deal. It's not one of the abilities like Matima Kundo, like Blue Sun. It's not one of the corp abilities that if it's turned off, you don't have a game plan anymore. It just slows you down a fair bit. And with triple hostile takeover, that's the only way Julien's going to be able to quickly, from hand, clear the current. He's not on any currents of his own. I don't think, at least. We have his deck list here. No, nothing. So he's going to have to score through that. Now, this deck is running Global Food Initiative on Julien's side as a restricted card. That's just an agenda. It means they have to stop, steal more agendas. They have to steal more agendas. The spice here is 3 times snare. Alright, we have 40 minutes in the round. It looks like we're going to have 59 fewer seconds than what the timer displays. Biggest thing Easter Egg does in this matchup is let Money Accident not be a dead card. That's the biggest thing it does, but generally at the speed that Julien wants to go, I don't think you can afford to play Money Accident. Paying 2 credits just to get a bad pub, I think you'll get enough bad pub if you're just interacting with
and
them.
he's going to give you a lot of bad pub as well. What?
You're just not close enough.
And he's going to give you a lot of bad pub as well.
So, opening hands, it looks like they both kept, and I think the best thing in hand right now Roberto has is he has that Maxwell James. I believe it's only a 1-of in his deck list. It's a 1-of. And that is a card that you want to jam down to prevent from rushing. That could be an Atlas in the remote. In fact, it is. A blank Atlas, not the scariest card, just a 3-2, no ability. But Roberto is going to respect Julien Staville's economic warfare, his hard-hitting news, and just sit back and take some money. And I'll be honest, if Julien scores this Atlas this turn and goes down to what is, like, what, 6 credits, he's probably not that upset at all. He needs to respect the credit differential as much as he can. With the economic warfare in hand, your credits are not what they appear, and it looks like he might ice that up and get some advances. The Atlas needs counters to be very strong. Once it has counters, you can pull any card from your deck, and that means those very mean operations are coming back, and that's actually a double advance. The double Atlas, the double counter Atlas is always the dream.
And now, if he can resist 2 ice, he can't get rushed behind a Maxwell James.
Yeah, he has to be able to res 1 of them. The ice suite in this deck, it's actually pretty... There's some big ice. You're looking at Archer and Surveyors at end run sentries. Everything else is mouseless. Hortimes, vanilla. It's a really small gear check. And then you have a Bulwark, which is actually a sizable barrier that punishes that Amakua. Now, a big thing also about the outfit decks, and it's a large difference between outfit and Argus decks, is so far the outfit decks we haven't seen today are neither running Rashida Yahim or NGO front. So anytime you see something jammed in a remote server and advanced, it's an agenda, no questions asked. And that's a really big deal, because if that's an Atlas, Roberto in a world of pain. If that's just a global food initiative, you don't mind that much, but that's a hard call to make. And it looks like Roberto might not be contesting. Just wants to take the money.
Yeah. He's afraid of like getting hard-hitting news and stuff.
Yeah.
Economic warfare.
He needs to keep his money. It looks like Maxwell's coming down. No surprises there. Now Julien knows he needs to ice HQ, but it looks like no thought really there. He's going to go down to 3 credits because that is an over-advanced Atlas.
The thing is, if Roberto has a turntable like he proved last game, he's probably going to switch the tokens before you get there.
He can. The turntable is a 1-of in the deck, and that's a snare off the top. He can't afford it. 1 credit short. That's getting trashed. And even with 3 credits, like, well, actually Roberto does have a lot of money, but the thing is, like, he can always pull double economic warfare with those counters on the Atlas, and he's going to top deck out hard-hitting news. So even if, like, it's easy for Roberto to lose 8 to 12 credits next turn.
And if I saw well in Julien's end, there was a too big to fail.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
That's a really strong econ card.
I think he can burst out the econ without like...
and you've seen this, too big to fail is a card that you can only play when you have less than 10 credits. But it's not something that you're seeing every player play on turn 1. It's really nice to keep that in hand to surprise runners. They run, think the corp doesn't have enough money to hard-hitting use them or C-source or what have you, and there you go, too big to fail in hand. And you can play that to suddenly go from what could be 3 credits. There we go, too big to fail. That's 10 credits in a single operation. Giving a bad pub, but again, if you just want to be in the lead of credits, a bad pub might not be that big of a deal.
Yeah, it's a lot of econ burst for when you want to trace someone and when you get back into the game.
Yeah. Preemptive action being used very preemptively. That's going to shuffle 3 cards back in the deck. We've seen all those cards. I think they were all economy cards and the snare. Preemptive action seeing a lot more play now than it used to due to the prevalence of counter surveillance, or sorry, clan vengeance. It makes you want to use it preemptively because you're going to eventually lose it. Now, Roberto seems pretty far from setup in terms of the 0 he needs in terms of the clan vengeance. But it's nice just to get the snare back in the deck to make the single axis is a lot worse.
He also doesn't seem to have a lot of breakers, or he didn't install them. So he could get rushed behind something.
He doesn't have anything yet. He could. He has Amakua and Black Orchestra in hand, and Amakua actually will get you through not that much. Hortum is 4 strength, can be advanced. Mouselith is 5. Archer and Surveyor, both out of Amakua's range. It might not even do that much.
He dropped the Black Orchestra.
Yeah, Orchestra in the bin.
Important,
So, Julien is using the token probably for a hostile takeover, but it looks like he's actually comfortable enough, and he feels like he can chain an Atlas into an Atlas. That remote, even with the Maxwell James, he feels pretty good about the remote, and actually he does have in hand Black Orchestra, so he's just missing the paperclip, if I'm not mistaken, and the credit differential.
I think he's going to force him to run, and if he does force him, he's going to get a token.
Yeah, and this is actually really big with an Atlas being scored. and having 2 counters. That means he can pull his Audacity Atlas as the last 2 points, and then he just needs a hostile takeover to win. You need to really get in that server, and it looks like Emiku is coming down. That gets through vanilla. He's running HQ here. If he steals an agenda, mind you, he doesn't get an Emiku a counter. I don't think there's agendas in hand, considering he did. Atlas for 1, but a single axis. That's another preemptive. That's going to give a counter on that turtle. And he's largely doing that run just to be able to use Maxwell James on that server. Maxwell James makes the remote archer seem untenable. You can't forfeit an agenda for nothing. And Stimhack might be a thing. Mind you, his MK Ultra is still in hand. So, worst case scenario, there's double Hortum on this remote server.
So you're gonna install this.
Yeah, looks like that's an MK Ultra. I don't know if you need that. And there we go, Stimhack. That's 9 extra credits plus a D-res. He needs to be able to get in here. It looks like it's going to be a res. That is only a vanilla, which he does have the answer there with the turtle. So, Julien might be bluffing there. Julien, apparently we're too loud, sorry. Julien might be bluffing there. Looks like he's going to take a brain damage, lose the inject to the brain damage from the Stimhack, and he's going to get into that remote server, not paying anything, mind you. It was just a bad pub and the install on the breakers that turn. But 9 credits to Julien's 13 plus access to economic warfare and hard-hitting news might be an issue here. The play here could be economic hard-hitting news, considering Julien does have high-profile targets in hand. Now, the 2 credits are coming in off of the daily cast. That might be just enough. It's a tempo loss, but I don't think he's by any means dead.
I think he could, from what I've seen and what he could have done. Yeah, from what I've seen and what he could have done, he's gonna get another, with his Atlas, he could get another economic warfare switch, which he could have like put him really down and already use him hard.
Yeah, he could have gone further for that for sure. There's a chance he wants to keep the Atlas token around just to defend against indexing. Which is the best counter, and Roberto is on 2 indexing, so only with 1 card in hand. Maybe not the biggest thing to worry about right now, but Roberto has 4 tags. He has 7 credits. Being on a single tag is actually an issue here, because he only has 1 card in hand. So I think he might honestly be boned.
Yeah.
He needs to clear 3 tags and draw a card, which he can do, but
he
then
can
he
get
double
another.
high-profile target. So he needs to draw an I've had worse, or he loses.
Yeah.
He's done no deuces wild. He's clearing all the tags. 5, 6, 7. No, he's doing it. He's drawing.
Doing the good play, yeah.
And if he doesn't have an I've had worse in hand, high-profile target, consulting visit, high-profile target, not even necessary. He does have the Atlas token. It looks like he doesn't have that. That was a really fast game. Absolutely brutal single tag, doing enough damage. It came down to cards in hand. Let's pull up high-profile target. Oh man, Julien Deville gets another flatline. We've been seeing flatlines all day. The single tag high-profile target. You're right. He totally could have pulled the last economic warfare, but it didn't even matter.
It didn't even matter. Yeah.
Absolutely disgusting. Double HPT. So that puts Julien Deville undefeated here in the top cut. He's going on to the finals. So Roberto does have a chance. They're going to be dropping him down to the lower brackets. Has a chance to come back. He only has lost 1 game in the double elimination format. Looks like no matter what, the outfit has a chance of winning the Montreal Regionals. Always very exciting to see the new ID, see the Wayland Mafia show up there. But we'll be right back. Thanks so much for watching. We actually have a pretty long break. It might be here. Depends how long the other matches take. Because we have to wait for the other matches to finish to go at the top. So we're going to throw about 30 minutes onto the timer. We probably will be back earlier if that's the case. Thanks so much for watching. We're here in the corner in the bright lights. Oh man, we're right under the sun. We'll be right back in about 30 minutes. See you then.
Je pense que tu n'aurais pas dû jouer ton MK Ultra. Ça t'a fait perdre beaucoup d'argent et un clic. Et dans tous les cas, tu avais ton Maxwell Gems en backup.
Ouais, mais je pensais à un genre Archer,
Maxwell Gems.
Surveyor. Tu sais, t'aurais pu avoir.
Kyle to get here.
Welcome back to Metropolitan Grid. My name is Andre. Thanks so much for tuning in. We're about to hit the lower table semifinals, the Lucy semifinals, and we got some wild decks here. Actually, we got to switch the sides real quick. Swap player positions. Update. Let's go wide. If you're just tuning in, this is the loser semifinals. On the right, we got Peter Hernandez. Yeah, oh smoke. Yeah, it's not Val, right? So they did a random draw, I think, of who they played, or maybe it wasn't random.
No, it was random.
It was random?
Both
Okay.
players have corked twice.
You gotta come real close. By the way, I'm joined by Vincent Petit.
Hello.
How's it going?
You
You,
might
have to
know
get
me-
really close.
You might know me as Vic from Stimax Slack.
Yeah. Unfortunately, you were just 9th, just out of
That's
the
correct.
top cut, which is
One loss too many.
one loss too many. I'm gonna go actually brighten the camera a bit. Do you want to talk about? I think you're more familiar with the cerebral imaging deck that Peter's
Yes.
running than I am. It's
That's
a bit
correct.
wild, isn't it?
Yes.
Be right back.
So
Just get nice and close. Yeah.
Peter's deck, it is a combo deck. It is a CI deck. You might have seen it. It has won a regionals in Louisville, I think, last week by Josh Wilson. It is a reconstruction contract with dedication ceremony deck. So basically, the point is, you install a card, you dedication ceremony your reconstruction contract, and then you move all the advancements on that card. So you can score agendas with six advancement counters in just one turn, really easily. So you can combo this with Vitruvius to go get back your combo pieces from archives. So it is a very strong deck, but it is very asset reliant, and it has a lot of moving pieces. So it is beatable. I beat Peter with it in the Swiss, but it is quite a strong deck.
And so we've seen this before in the Swiss, like 2 really good hard counters to the deck. I think there's a Leela in the top cut that was kicking around. That's an issue.
That's
that
correct.
disrupts the combo pretty heavily. Also, Clan Vengeance, of course, is annoying. If you lose those combo cards in the middle, you can sometimes recover. Not the easiest.
Not the easiest, and at some point, the deck is pretty fast. You can win usually about like max turn 10, I would say. So if they don't find the Clan Vengeance early on, then sometimes your hand is so big and you have so many Vitruvius counters that even the Clan Vengeance is not going to do anything to disrupt your combo except make you use your Vitruvius counters.
So we've seen Sungo's smoke list a couple times on the stream so far. He's playing Patron, not Patron, Paragon, to get that card draw, to get those credits. He's also on a pretty strong run economy. He's going all in on, I think he's triple cloaks, double cloaks actually. Obviously the Netmarker is coming down. He only has 2 Netmarker. He needs to find it as soon as possible. For multi-axis, we're looking here at indexing. Very strong. There's not a lot of ways for the we got these backwards actually. All these are goofed up. Oh, that only switched those. Oh, excuse me, we're gonna swap this 1 second. But sorry, the multi-axis, we also have DJ Fenris. I don't think there's an option here that's really good against CI, besides maybe Steve Cambridge, because you want to do HQ pressure regardless.
Yeah, there's not much that's good against CI.
Can you talk a bit about Peter's ice? Because he's not on Mythic, right?
No, the ice is it's very simple. It's Architects, Gatekeepers, and Vanilla. So I think most players play 8 ice, so 3 Architects, 3 Vanillas, 2 Gatekeepers. Sometimes they go up to 9 with the 3rd Gatekeeper. But basically it's gear checks. Architects is really good because your combo and your game is asset based. Compared to most other combos in CIs that have appeared in the past that were really operation based, this one needs the assets, and it is the restricted card is Estelle Moon. So Architects really strong to accelerate your game plan, and Gatekeepers are obviously really good for combo decks because it lets you find more pieces while building your agendas.
In talking about the restricted card, that means that Peter is actually on legitimate 3 points. We have the Akala Project, which is a bit of a defensive upgrade, but that can cause an upset. You know, the 3-point agenda swinging around with indexing is always going to be an issue. And I believe we have no Mad Dash to accompany that indexing. So no matter what, Sunga's going to need at least 3 agendas. The indexing Mad Dash double Akawa turn is not going to happen.
Obviously, the restricted card for Sango, Employee Strike, fairly strong
that's going to be huge.
CI. Contrary to a lot of other CI decks, you can install a lot of your combo pieces ahead of time. So you don't necessarily need to hold so many pieces in your hand. So when you get hit by Employee Strike, obviously it kind of sucks, but it's not the end. You have currents and you have ways to score, but you can make do with the 5-card hand with that deck, which you really couldn't really do with other CIs. So, seems like a fairly strong start for Peter. No Estelle Moons, unfortunately, with all these assets.
Oh man, so Peace in Our Time is coming out, and that's actually a really big econ card that Sango is using to set up. And now you never want to give CI more money. It gives them, makes them more comfortable, allows them to spend more time drawing.
So, Employee Strike first turn. Yeah. You see, this one is not too good because Peter already has only 2 cards in his hand. So
yeah, not going to do that much.
Exactly.
And the UVC is still going to draw him up to, I think, exactly 6, but he gets to install 1 card. A lot
from
of assets to install. Oh yeah, and he has an extra click from Jeeves as well. With the Ultraviolet there, here, let's pull some of these stuff up. That's going to give him a card install anyways off of that super strong event.
Yeah, Ultraviolet and Jeeves, obviously a very, very, very good combo.
And Scarcity was drawn up. That's the Jeeves click there. It's going to give him an extra click to play an operation. So Strike, not even an issue. And if I'm not mistaken, actually, Sanko on the left there, he doesn't have any recursion. Yeah. So he's going to have to play his more strikes if he needs to find him.
That's correct.
How are we doing on volume? Can you hear us? Fantastic. Okay, so we're nice and quiet. Those assembly lines, actually, that's a really interesting include.
It's very good because you can install your combo pieces or any assets.
Rashida before turn.
out of turn. You can protect your Rashidas with that.
And we've seen advanced assembly lines. It was a really strong card.
I heard it.
Okay, we got to be a bit quieter. I got really excited. That Rashida, that's a card we've been seeing all day. You're probably familiar by now. But with advanced assembly lines, you can install that naked as a low risk play.
Exactly.
And if they don't run it, install the Rashida before beginning of turn. Get that ability. Draw 3 cards. Gain 3 credit.
Peter gets the SL Moon, definitely one of the moving parts from the deck. And he protects us with an ice because 2 counters on SL Moon, not that great. He really wants to get it up to, 4 or 5 counters at least before popping it, which is the ideal number. Now Songho's Please Peace in Our Time again. I think Songho at some point will have to trash some of these assets.
Yeah.
There's no consequences for trashing these assets out of CI, and he's got a lot of money.
And that means Peace in Our Time. It means he can't run this turn.
That's correct, yeah.
You always want to contest Estelle with a single piece of ice. It's difficult, but that means that for sure that Peter there is going to get more cards on the table, more Estelle counters, and things are going to snowball harder and harder.
So it seems like Sango is probably going to the just access cards route instead of trying to contest the board.
Do you think that's you think that's a way to win? It's a legitimate strategy in this matchup?
You got real 3 pointers. That's a pretty legitimate way to win.
Yeah.
I don't know if Songho is trying to bluff anything out of that SMC because he does not have a clock, but I'm not sure if he knows that.
Mind you, I think both of these players are probably familiar with each other's decks.
I think Peter knows. Yeah, I would assume Peter knows the deck is. So I'm not sure if he's trying to bluff anything other than SMC by not popping in for Gatekeeper.
Yeah.
Maybe he just wants to let the Gatekeeper fire because it's 6 strength only this turn.
It looks like we're going for a score.
Yeah, we're gonna probably see a Reconstruction contract.